Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Effective Living Early Morning Conversation. This morning, we're going to dive in like we've been doing all week long. Our goal here is to help you to take control of your life. The truth of the matter is, there are principles, if discovered, can help you go to new levels and new heights. The key is deciding, I'm going to discover what I need to discover. Our quote today is, if you want to inherit the earth, it's time to become a lifelong learner. This morning, I'm joined with my good friend. He is a children's ministry veteran. He is a lover of God, lover of family, and lover of life. Phillip Sexton, how are you doing, my brother?
Hey, I'm doing good. I'm doing good, Ricardo. Hope you are.
Man, listen, I am so appreciative of this opportunity to be able to talk to you about managing faith and family. There is just so much going on in our world today when it comes to both faith and family. Before we do dive into that talk per se, let's talk about you. Tell our viewing audience a little bit about Phillip.
Okay, so Philip is a 45-year-old guy, just an average guy. I've been married for 24 years. I have a 20-year-old son. I have a 15-year-old daughter and a 13-year-old niece that I have custody of. I have been serving the local church now for probably about 25 years.
Wow.
Before that, I was a general contractor. Um, but yeah, my current role at the church is family pastor. Moved from kids ministry solely to a family ministry position about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I deal with uh, birth through college age, and
Yeah.
also our marriage ministry I oversee, as well as our senior adult ministry.
Nice.
So in a nutshell, that's me.
Wow. That's cool. That's cool. Let's talk about your faith journey. What brought you to the Lord? What kept you in Christ? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so at an early age, my mom and dad, who were not saved at the time, sent me to church on a church bus.
Uh-huh.
So I'm a product of the church bus ministry. So for all of those that may listen and are serving in that capacity, it is definitely something worthwhile. But I attended church from probably about 5 years old until 16 years old. Somewhere around 11 years old, I gave my life to Christ, and got to that teenage years where you kind of rebel and get away from Christ, and I did the same thing. And it wasn't until I met my wife and I started attending church with her that I really rededicated my life back to Christ at about the age of 19, and immediately went into a volunteer serving role at church, and knew pretty soon that I was being called into vocational ministry.
Wow.
But it wasn't until several years later that I actually God actually opened that door for me. So
Phillip, man, that's really cool to hear that. I got the chance to meet your family. I met your son during the
yes.
conference we were at lately, and your wife and so forth. When you think about your son, your wife, your family, all that you have as a responsibility, I know there are a lot of people who are watching us today. They're struggling with balance. When you think of the term balance, what comes to mind?
I think of work because balancing everything is work. It's not easy. You go through different seasons of life. Um, but it's definitely rewarding, and it's needed, and it's necessary. But it definitely is something that you have to put effort and time into. It doesn't just fall into place automatically. These are things that, practices and things that you need, tools that you need in your toolbox to be able to use to make sure that you balance things correctly. Because if you don't, that's when life can just spiral out of hand.
Yeah, that is so true. When we think about this faith and family, and you're the family ministry pastor at your church now, and with last year being the year that the whole world was disrupted with COVID-19, this global pandemic, the whole term of trying to keep it all together when it comes to faith and family. And some people have actually separated it. What's your view on the whole idea of some people separating it and some people not giving both of them the respectful attention that they deserve?
Yeah, so I think living in a Christian house, um, I don't think there's a separation per
Yep.
se,
Yep.
but I do think that there are boundaries that
Yep.
you have to set up.
Yeah.
And if you're intentional with the boundaries, especially if you serve at a church, whether it's full time or volunteer, you definitely have to set boundaries up, and understand that there are times when it's just going to be you and your family, and that you're going to go off and enjoy each other and spend time with each other and do those things. And then there are going to be some times when you're going to have to, set aside time to serve the Lord and to do the things that He's called you to do as well. And then a majority of the time, you're going to be able to merge the two and marry the two together. I know, you know, family devotions are big and people talk about those a lot, but one of the things that I've tried to always do is with my kids is to use an everyday experience, or
Hmm.
maybe something that's going on in our home, or even if we're passing by an automobile accident or things
Yeah.
like that, to use those things as an opportunity to talk about faith and to practice our faith, all while spending time as a family. So
Wow. Well, I noticed, Philip, that during at the conference, it appears that y'all serve together. Let's talk about that a little bit. Family serving together, the power of it, and how it has probably strengthened you guys over the years.
Ricardo, that has probably been one of the biggest things that we have done together that have kept us, on the same page as far as our faith. Serving together, number one, it sets a great example for your kids, to be able to understand what it means and the need to serve in the local ministry or the local church.
Yeah.
But not only that, is they get to see your heart outside of the home. And if your heart is for kids ministry or family ministry, or if it's for the bus ministry, or maybe it's, on the welcome team at your church, whatever your heart is for, you're being a good example, and you're showing that, and you're putting that on display outside of the home. Obviously inside the home, you want to show love and honor to your spouse and also to your kids, and your kids back to you. But outside the home in the local church, it really it allows them to see you showing the love of Christ to everyone else. And so I think that it's been great. Everyone at in my house serves at the church. My son serves in kids ministry. My wife actually has been in kids ministry longer than I have. Um, but my daughter, for instance, kids ministry is not her thing. She's 13,
Yeah.
and I'm sorry, she's 15, and music is her thing. So she plays the keys, and so she serves on the worship team, and plays keyboard, and she does other things in the church. Um, I don't think it's where they serve; it's just seeing the heart of being of servanthood.
Yeah.
And so I think it really makes a huge difference in the house to be able to serve together.
Wow, that's good. Is it safe to say that your wife could be your secret weapon, your secret sauce that people just don't know? Okay, Philip's good, but what we don't know is that there's this lady beside him.
Oh, well, I think it's more than safe to say. I think that it's not even a secret sauce. People know, my wife's name is Jennifer. People know that Jennifer is, I mean, she carries kids ministry a lot of the
Yeah.
times. She is a wonderful kids ministry teacher, and I can't even hold a candle to her when it comes to being able to teach and get
Wow.
the attention of kids that she can.
Wow.
And that's the thing too, is you surround yourself with people. And I know we're talking about family, but even outside of your family, your
Hmm.
close friends that serve with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Um, I had the title of children's pastor for a long time, but
Yeah.
really it was the team that was underneath me, which did include my wife and does include my son,
Yeah.
but also includes some other key volunteers. I mean, they're way better than me.
Yeah.
But it's just being able to put that perfect recipe together, to be able to to carry ministry. And then also, when you do that, what you're doing is you're taking a lot of stress off of yourself, and
Yeah.
you're not taking that back home, so
Yeah.
you're not bringing that stress back into your family and into your house either.
Yeah. Let's talk about that even a little bit more. I love how you added that because there's this quote out there that it takes a village to raise a child. I think it takes a village to live life effectively. I think family has grown to be that of a tribe, a community, a support group, and so forth. be it as you referred to just now. Talk about that along your journey to having people in your life who they're not blood, but they're just like family, and the role they have played along the way.
Oh gosh, it's so important to surround yourself with that tribe.
Yeah,
You know, some might be family or extended family. I don't know where we would be without my parents and my wife's parents, without our pastor,
yeah,
without we just went through a transition at our church, so we have a new lead pastor. But
yeah,
the person who was the lead pastor before that, I mean, there when my kids were born, I mean, there's so many little nuggets of advice.
yeah,
Even specifically, I remember one time when I was having hard time with my son when he was about 3 and I was kind of giving into something, and he come by me and just said, "Hey, just remember one thing, Philip." He said, "Remember that Christian was born into your world. You were not born into his." And I
wow,
and I that's a just a nugget that I've passed on to families over the time too.
yeah,
And what that might not mean a lot to some people, but in the moment that was a big piece of advice for me. And so being able, and then there's so many others I could just name that even are on my kids ministry leadership team now, or they serve in our youth now, uh, or even they've been mentors to my son. We have a family friend who was like a son to me, who served as a mentor to my son for about 10 years, and he recently just moved to Colorado. He's in the Air Force.
yeah,
But even having those people in your life, when as a parent it's hard to speak into your kid's life, because sometimes they just need to hear from somebody else. And
yeah,
so these are people that you can go to and say, "Hey, here's what we're dealing with. Do you mind having a conversation with him, or do
yeah.
you mind doing this?" And so those mentors or those disciplers is really what they are. Being able to just plug right in and help you as you parent, as you minister. It's so vital to surround yourself with people like that.
Let's talk about discipline, Philip. The role of discipline in your journey, the role of discipline in your wife's journey, your son's journey. Obviously, there are a lot of people who want the end result that you have, or that we teach from a pastoral standpoint. But the discipline, the dedication and discipline necessary to have it, to, for lack of a better term, have it all, to
Right.
have the family model that's healthy and have the faith that is healthy. Discipline is necessary. How would you talk about that?
Yeah, I would say discipline is necessary, but I would also put in there that no family unit is perfect.
Come on, good.
And number one, I think if you have to understand that before understanding anything.
Yeah,
My family's not perfect. I don't have it all. We
yeah,
go through
yeah,
seasons and times of trials and tribulations, and teenagers are teenagers, and
yeah,
so you're gonna have these things where you think, oh my goodness, everything's falling apart.
yeah,
I remember even personally a specific time when I just transitioned into the family pastor role. And honestly, we started having some behavioral problems at home,
yeah,
and I was like, and I was going, man, the enemy is attacking me. I am the family pastor, and it feels like I don't have my family together.
yeah,
Um, but the discipline comes in where, you set up the boundaries like I was talking about earlier.
yeah,
And you stick to them,
yeah,
and you have to let your yes be yes and your no be no. And
good.
if you've decided that, you know, Saturday from lunchtime through the end of the night is family time, then no matter what happens, you have to put it on your calendar, and that has to be your family time. And I struggle even sometimes to be as disciplined as I should be. Um, and I'm growing in it. And
Yeah,
time management is a big key to that. And I
yeah,
credit, our friend Jim Weidman for a book that he wrote. I mean, I've been over that book probably 3 or 4 times on time management
yeah,
that has really just helped me.
yeah,
Uh, but yeah, discipline is so key, because you have to set those boundaries, you have to set those appointments, you have to do those things, and you have to stick to them, and let your yes be yes and your no be no. um and just go from there.
Wow. I love Jim Weidman, and that book it is amazing. Let's talk about this. When you were looking at the whole, this is a challenging time. Have there been a challenging time, boy, when it came to family, or Ooh, Lord, I don't know if I can make this. What would you say were some of the things that helped you to make it? Like literally, what brought you over? What took you out of that dry place, challenging place, overwhelming place? What kept you? Because years later, you're here now, testifying to the fact that you have a young adult son. You have these incredible years of celebrating being married to this wonderful lady. I mean, you've been in ministry for so long. Some people would say, "Man, you have it made in the shade." But did you overcome anything? And let's talk about what you felt as though, boy, there was some bumps in the road. Were there?
Oh, there were bumps all the time throughout the entire journey. You're going to hit
Yeah.
speed bumps.
Yeah.
One of my most, I guess, memorable because it was so big time that I talk about occasionally is early on in ministry, um, prior to kids or anything. There was a time where I equated my doing to my being, and
Yeah.
so I was at the church all the time.
Yeah.
And one day my wife just literally looked at me and she said, either you're going to have to choose the church or you're going to have to choose me. And
Wow.
it's going to be one of the two. So either it's going to be our marriage or it's going to be
Right.
the church, and you need to
Yeah.
make that decision. And that was like a what are you talking about kind of moment. And then
Yeah.
I realized that I had been putting on over my family, and my priorities weren't straight.
Mm.
And that was probably one of the biggest speed bumps that I had to cross. And so I had to realign my priorities, and I had to put those boundaries. And I know I'm using that word boundaries a lot,
It's
but
necessary. Yeah.
it's just something that I've learned that I had to put those things in place. And there
Yeah.
are going to be times where my family is going to take up again a majority of my time because of a season that we're going through. And then there's going to be times where there might be something big going on at your church, and you might have to put in some extra hours at the church,
Yeah.
uh, without losing sight of the correct priority and the order that even God Himself put in place for us. And so, yeah, that was a big hurdle. I literally almost lost my marriage early on because of equating my doing to my being.
Wow, that is so good. That is so good. Let's talk about this. The that doing and being. Let's dive into that a little bit. Why do you think that is such a common mistake among, more specifically, let's just say ministers for this conversation? Why do you think that is so common? Hello, Philip, you there? Ladies and gentlemen, we're joined with Phillip Sexton, and we're talking about managing faith and family. Philip, are you there?
Ricardo, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
I'm so sorry. I had something happen here. Sorry for that technical difficulty. Um, I would just say that the doing side of it is something that people see, and it makes you feel fulfilled
Yeah,
a lot of times because you can see results.
yeah,
And I think that naturally we want to serve God and we want to do things, and so we just feel like that's the outlet that God has given us, and so we use that a lot of times. And really a lot of times we'll replace who we are and what we are trying to accomplish and how close to God we're trying to grow with the things that we're trying to do, when in all honesty we should be sitting back and going through His word and just praying and drawing closer to Him versus all the unnecessary things that we think we should be doing.
yeah.
And so sometimes we just get those mixed up.
Wow, that is so good. We do get those mixed up. Philip, let's talk about this as we bring our conversation closer to the end. Fitness, the whole concept of fitness and family and making sure that you take care of your health. You're a minister, a lot of ministers, a lot of times it's one of the things that doesn't make the list of priorities. What's your thoughts on the role of, fitness and taking care of one's health on your journey to being that father, husband, minister?
Yeah, I think it's up there. It's very important, and most of the time, like you said, it's not as important as it should be. And I physically, I have a lot of work to do as well. But I did realize that there has to be a lot of attention paid to your healthiness, because if you're not healthy, then you're not going to be able to, number one, be there for your family,
Yeah.
and number two, you're not going to be there to do what God's called you to do ministry wise as well. And so it's very important to prioritize your health, even mentally. You have to prioritize. You have to take those days off, those sabbaticals. You have to be able to find an activity to release the stress.
Come
And
on.
so I think it's up there. It's highly up there, and in our priorities, or it should be, um, because you know being healthy is just important, and it makes you feel better. You'll perform better when you are working. You'll perform better when you're at the house and paying attention to what your kids are saying. It drives your all around being. So being healthy is very important.
Thank you. Listen, Philip, I want you to talk because you've been around ministry for a long time. You have your great parents. You have great uh, in-laws. Your wife's parents. You've learned some things along the way. What would be some of those family nuggets? You talked about what your pastor taught you about your son and his generation. What would you say would be some of those? Boy, I can never shake this principle. My mama said this, my daddy said that, or my wife's mother always says this, and it's so true. Share with us from a family standpoint principles that's worth passing on.
Yeah, I would think that number one is be the example. If you want your kids to follow Christ and to be there, and to be able to show them what it looks like to follow Christ, even through tragedies, even through things, is just to be that example. Don't go to church without them. Don't do things without them. Bring them alongside of you through everything, even if that means bringing them along while, as a minister, even if it means bringing them along while I'm performing a funeral service, or or take them along when I'm going to a wedding, or those kind of things. Is just always letting them be a part of who you are, so that they can see all of those things. And then the other thing is that, always be there to listen. Don't be so quick um, to discipline. Don't be so quick to um, put your input or give your advice on subjects that might. I mean, I have a 15-year-old daughter, and she's at that age where she talks about relationships with her friends, and things like that. And even as being involved with the youth ministry like I am, I want to go, oh, give her this piece of advice because I know some of the backstory or something. But I think it's more important sometimes that I just sit and listen and just hear what she's got to say and hear her heart. But then also you can't neglect the discipline either, because you have to. You have to set rules and boundaries for even your kids and the way they act and the way they talk, um, and those kind of things. And while you and your spouse might have different views on parenting and discipline, it's always important to be together and to stand together on some of those things as well. So
Philip, we're down to our last two questions. Philip, well, this one right here just came to me, and that would be, what do you think to be one of the greatest problems to families today? What one of the greatest hindrance to healthy family models? What do you think it be? I know, from a ministerial standpoint, we could say outright sin.
yeah.
From a pastoral standpoint, the problem is sin. No, but I mean, in all seriousness and jokes aside, you being a family minister, when you look at the family model and society and where it's at, what would you say to be one of the greatest challenges family are facing today from having a healthy model within the home?
This might not be the answer you're expecting,
No,
but
it's your answer. Whatever answer
but
is your answer.
but I honestly, this is something that's really been kind of on my heart lately, and I
Yeah,
believe, um, social media.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
It's a
believe
good one.
social media is a huge issue within the family because
Yeah.
um, what we see, I mean, because here's what we do as individuals, and then we take those things and we see family pictures and we see events and outings and vacations that others are doing. But as individuals, what we do is we take somebody's highlight reels that we
Yeah.
see on social media, and then we compare them to our lowest moments that we're having at the moment, and then we start becoming we don't understand why our family is
Yeah.
not blessed or it does not have what they have,
Yeah.
not knowing that that's they posed for that picture and they just got out of a huge family argument, or they're going through a financial hardship, or they're whatever it is, and so we become discontent with what we have at home, and that discontentment leads to arguments and living outside of our means and not taking care of this or not doing those. And I believe that comparison. I have a friend who wrote a book, and one of his statements is comparison kills. And
Yeah.
sometimes I believe that us trying to compare ourselves and our families with the neighbors next door and trying to live up to the Joneses
Yeah.
and that kind of that old statement is really something uh, that hurts a family. So I just say, for us and my family's like we're gonna do us.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if it looks different than my next door neighbors, or if it looks different than my pastor's family,
Yeah.
then so be it. Because God called me to lead my family, not
Come
to
on.
lead anybody else's family.
Good.
So we're gonna do us. But I do think that social media and that whole comparison concept really hurts families a lot of times.
Man, that is so good. That's a bullseye answer, man. That was great, Philip. Thanks for sharing that. Hey, last thing. When you look back over your life, what would you say you wish you knew 10 years ago? 10 years ago, knowing who what you know now, and you said, "Boy, 10 years ago, I wish I knew this." I want you to share it because I believe it has the potential of helping somebody in there now, even though you're not there in 10 years ago anymore. It could be something that will help someone to capitalize on what you discover after having all of the experiences you've had.
Yep. So I'm going to go back to that word boundaries.
Yep.
I wish that somebody would have talked to me about setting boundaries.
Yep.
Even I preached in youth a couple weeks ago, and I told even our teenagers, start setting boundaries now, because your boundaries are going to change, but yet the practice and the discipline of being able to set boundaries will be there forever.
Yep.
And boundaries can be for anything. They can be for you and your walk with Christ, and setting
Yep.
boundaries so that you don't cross that line when it comes to sin or those worldly things that you don't want to participate in.
Yep.
Boundaries can be between you and your wife, or to protect your marriage.
Yep.
Boundaries can be there to protect your finances.
Yep.
Uh, you boundaries go for anything, and boundaries are not something that like pins you in and keeps you from doing things and keeps you from enjoying life. Boundaries actually keep other things out of your property so that you can contain and keep them and enjoy the blessings that God gives you, if you look at it that way. Setting boundaries and learning how to set those to protect your family, to protect your faith,
Yep.
those are all things that I wish that I had learned, 10, 15, 20, even 20 years ago.
Wow. That's so good. Man, thank you for sharing that. I like that. If I had to do a talk again with you, I'm going to talk on setting boundaries. It is such a great
Yeah.
thing. You kept highlighting it. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you would grab a hold of it. It's such a necessary thing on your journey to living life effectively. Philip, closing thoughts, managing faith and family for those that are listening and viewing this live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. What would you say as a closing thought?
I would just say that understand that again that nobody is perfect, and so if you will not do things perfectly, but faith and family go together,
Yeah.
and that you can do it, and that you can be successful in it, and as you grow in your faith, your love in your family is going to continue to grow, and they're both so important. They're both God ordained things. and to lead your family and to be a part of a great family. Doesn't mean that you're going to go without trials and tribulations, but it does mean that blood is thicker than water. We always have heard that statement. So, but just being able to enjoy your family is so important in life, and they're going to always be there for you, and you're going to be there for them. And it's all going to be guided and directed by your faith that you have in Christ. So I think it's two wonderful things to put together. A wonderful thing that you're doing, Ricardo, with effective living, and being able to teach that and bring that to people, because they're just near and dear to my heart. And I love the fact that we can just be able to talk about faith and family and talk about them together and how to protect them and how to grow them.
Listen, Philip, this was a great conversation. I love and appreciate you, bro. I love and appreciate what you stand for and how you show up in the world, man, for Christ, advancing faith, advancing family. Blessings to you, man. Give my love to your family today. And thank you once again for a great interview.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Always an honor and a privilege.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, that was Phillip Sexton. If you enjoyed this interview, do me a favor and share. Tag somebody. Somebody needs to know faith and family, they do go together. And it is possible for you to manage them really well. You just have to learn how to set boundaries. In addition, for those of you in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, would love for you to join us for this upcoming event. Locally, we're doing it together to ensure that as we move forward, we're able to do what God's called us to do in taking care of our physical temple. And so we're having a fitness boot camp. Watch this before we end our talk. Check this out. Make sure you show up and be a part of this event, ladies and gentlemen. We would love to see you at Fitness Boot Camp. It's going to be great. Once again, thank you guys for joining us. Don't forget, share this with someone that you believe will be blessed by this talk. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.